Hello, everybody, and welcome to Inside the World of Box Lacrosse. I am your host, Trevor Butz, and we got a good show for you. We got a ton to recap from last week and a whole heck of a lot to preview for this weekend. So let's waste no time and get right into it. And we will start with the Saskatchewan Rush's 14-8 win over the Calgary Roughnecks. Outside of the first few minutes of the game, it was really just a contest that was dominated and controlled by the Rush. As I mentioned, the first few minutes, Calgary had 2 goals in the first minute of the game, and it looked like the Roughnecks were going to have a much better outing. Ended up leading 3-0 in that first quarter, but didn't score for the whole rest of the first half, as it was 7-0 Saskatchewan after that point. Throughout the first half, the Rush end up going into halftime up 7-3, and it was just all Saskatchewan really from that point on. Calgary never really got back into the game, and it did lead to the Rush outscoring the Roughnecks in the fourth, in particular 4-2. That is, a big area of concern, especially for Calgary. Down late in the game, you got to try and fight back and get into it, and really were unable to do so. And a lot of that, I think, has to do with the shot totals throughout that game. Something that really just caught my eye. It finished 63-34 in favor of Saskatchewan, and I mean that's not even comparable. Those are that's a large gap and a big disparity in shot totals there. And I really think obviously shots don't tell the whole story, but that definitely does tell you a story there. Just constant offense, almost, it seems, from Saskatchewan. Calgary really just can't get anything going, can't get quality looks, let alone just basic looks at the net. When you're taking that few of shots, you're just not getting good, consistent looks at the net really at all. And I mean, even into that fourth quarter, I mean, midway through at the under 10 media, they only had 25 shots. And it's like, guys, you should have 25 shots midway through the second quarter, not midway through the fourth. I mean, you're not going to win any games doing that. Calgary's just got to get better offensively. Tanner Cook, I feel like, has really been, a big part of their offense this season. Really, one of the main reasons why they've been able to be competitive in as many games as they have this year. Cook, I really have liked what I've seen from him. I think Tyler Pace, obviously, is a great player, great playmaker, but he, if the team wants to win more games, he's got to start scoring more goals. And a player of his calibers, I guess at this point, got to just take it upon himself. Tanner Cook had a hat trick in that game. He did his part. You got to have your other big players contributing. Braden Maye had 2 goals. I think he's a very nice young player, but outside of that, not a whole lot of production from the Roughnecks team. As for Saskatchewan, you got 9 points out of Austin Shanks. Once again, he is just showing his takeover ability. Got to see a lot of it in the postseason last year for Saskatchewan. He was just on an all-time heater, but he is starting to heat up now this year. 8 points against Las Vegas, 7 against Oshawa, now 9 for a season high against Calgary. 4 goals for him as well in 2 out of the last 3 games. He is really starting to find his groove, and look out the rest of the National Lacrosse League if Austin Shanks starts to get going, because that can be real dangerous. Robert Church with an 8-point night. Starting to get back to his big-time playmaking ways. Zach Mans had a really good game. 4 goals, 7 points. What a great ad he has been coming over in that Mark Matthews trade a few seasons ago. Been a franchise-changing piece for the Rush. Ryan Keenan with a 7-point night as well. So 4 players on the Rush team with 7 or more points. Very impressive. But speaking of impressive, how about the performance of Mike Messenger? Not only in that game, but all throughout the season, Messenger really has been one of, if not the best defenseman in the National Lacrosse League. He had a goal and an assist on his stat line to go along with 8 loose balls and 4 caused turnovers, which is just huge Just ask any defender that. Caused turnovers, a big stat. He had 4 of his own, and that really just continues to show why he is a big-time candidate for Defensive Player of the Year this year. Right now, in my opinion, it's him and Robert Hope for Defensive Player of the Year. Can't give it to a goaltender. Maybe Brett Dobson would make a case to sweep every award this year, but no, has to go to a defensive runner, and I really think Messenger makes a great case for it. He has been just excellent this season. Holden Garland was excellent in this game as well. The former Canisius Golden Griffin, 4 loose balls, 3 caused turnovers. So 7 of Saskatchewan's 10 caused turnovers coming between Messenger and Garland. And, that means you got 2 top-notch defenders there to go along with the reigning Defensive Player of the Year, Matt Hossack, to go along with one of the top young defensemen in Jake Boudreau, and Ryan Barnable, somebody else that's very solid. Obviously, Holden Garland we've talked about. Adam J. coming back now from IR is a big add for the Rush team. I think they just continue to seemingly get better and better every week, and they're trying to put the rest of the NLL on notice. They got a taste of what that championship success could be like by getting to the finals last year. Well, they don't just want to taste anymore. They want to lift the cup. And I think there's still a lot of work to be done before that happens, but man, oh man, the Rush have just as good of a shot as anybody to do it this year. Our next contest will be the Philadelphia Wings 13-7 defeat against the San Diego Seals as San Diego completes the home-and-home sweep of the Wings to get over 500, up now to 4-3 on the season, and that's big for San Diego. I know I talked about it a few weeks ago on this show about the opportunity they had to get above 500 facing a team like Philly that's had a lot of struggles throughout this season, and they needed to take advantage of this opportunity. Well, the Seagulls did. It was a bit of a struggle in the road game last week, or 2 weeks ago, I should say, but last week, their home game, much more comfortable, a 6-goal win, and a 6-point performance from Connor Robinson. He's starting to find his groove a bit more with this Seals team. Had a slow start to the season, but 9 points for him in his last 2 games. Obviously, both against Philly, but if he can use that to try and build off of it and progress throughout the season, that will be huge for his Seals team because they need his support on the left side. He's going to be asked to play a big role, be that leader of the left side, because they've kind of been right side heavy this year. Berg, McIntosh, Leclerc, Kavanaugh, they're giving you some great production, especially McIntosh lately. Leclerc has really exceeded expectations this year, but having 4 great players on the right side, that's great, but you got to try and balance it, and it takes a guy like Connor Robinson stepping up to do that effectively, and he has most certainly done that the last few weeks. If he can keep that rolling, this Seals team will be dangerous. Speaking of guys that have been stepping up lately, how about Zach Currier? I mean, enough good things can't be said about this guy. 2 goals, 3 assists. I mean, you can make an argument he's the best lefty forward for this Seals team, and I know that may sound kind of strange with how great of a player Connor Robinson is, but Zach Currier is just truly a one of one. And to further illustrate that point, Robinson, I know he's had some struggles this year, but 9 goals, 9 assists, 18 points in 7 games. Zach Currier, 7, 10, 17 points. So only 1 shy, and he's also got 83 loose balls on the season, 11 caused turnovers, and is really one of the biggest game changers, and you could make the argument one of the most valuable players to any team's success in the National Lacrosse League is Zach Currier. So I think it's fair to say he could be the best lefty on the roster. 16 loose balls for him in that game to go along with 5 points. No caused turnovers or blocks for Currier in that one, but still, what a difference he made in the game. Ben McIntosh with 5 points as well. Westberg taking more of a backseat in this one, but still a solid 4-point game with 4 assists. Still haven't quite seen that Westberg, goal-scoring prowess like we've seen the last couple years, but I don't think the Seals are going to care one bit as long as the team keeps winning. As the only game that Berg got a hat trick in this season, it was a loss coming back against Calgary earlier in the season. So maybe they're all right with him not putting up hat tricks. Who knows? Trey LeClaire got a hat trick. He has been excellent all season for the Seals. Dylan Watson and Pat Cavanaugh each with 2 and 1 as they continue to contribute in their support roles like they have really all season long. As for Philly, the Wings, once again, just continue to struggle. Joe Resetarits, a nice game, 3 goals, 1 assist. I really like Michael Sowers. I think he has a lot of potential for the Wings on that right side. First full NLL season, got to play a bit last year, but getting his first full season opportunity this year, and I really think the Wings do have a gem with Michael Sowers on that right side, but right now I just don't know if it's enough to put them over the top and get them to start winning more games. It feels like, I said this before, Brendan O'Neill kind of needs to step up seemingly every game. Not that he's not playing well, but it seems like he really has to step up and take over all these games for them to have a shot. You're not getting the kind of production out of Reardon that I think you would hope. Dalton Young really hasn't found his goal-scoring stride. Doing well, passing the ball, making plays, that way, but hasn't really figured out, putting the ball in the back of the net yet. Maybe not getting as many opportunities as some of the other guys, but it just feels like this team right now offensively leaning or having to lean too hard on guys like O'Neill, Resetarits, Sowers, and it's just not working out for them. Defensively, there's a lot of work that needs to be done there as well, but just... And they have these moments of droughts as well. You can't have these big droughts. San Diego going on a 10-0 run throughout the middle portion of that game. No goals for the Wings in the second or third quarters. You just can't have that and expect to win games really at any level, especially not at the NLL level. These guys are far too good and far too talented. If you give them 2 quarters to just run the score up on you, they will, and the Wings got to see that firsthand. Next up in our Saturday slate of games, we had the Georgia Swarm taking down the Halifax Thunderbirds 11-7 as the Swarm continue to roll and improve to 5-3 on the season. The young, high-flying Swarm having themselves a season to remember so far, and for Georgia, they're a young, high-flying team, but in this game, it was the older, crafty veterans leading the way. Shane Jackson and Brian Cole, each with 5-point nights, 3 and 2 for Jackson, a goal and 4 assists for Brian Cole. But how about Nolan Byrne for the Georgia Swarm? A 4-goal game, really just his biggest performance, of his career. He had a 6-point game earlier in the season against Calgary, but 1 goal, 5 assists versus 4 goals. I think the 4-goal game going to pop and stand out a bit more, so I think that is his biggest performance of the year. 4 goals on 9 shots, too, so a solid shooting performance there for Nolan Byrne. He's looking like a gem for this Georgia Swarm team. First-round pick, 8th overall in the 2025 draft. Just a guy who, found his way to Georgia, and I think the Swarm are really going to benefit from it. I think Nolan Byrne is a future star right now for this Swarm team, and he's just, honestly, just one of many. That left side leading the way as well. Jackson, Cole, Byrne, and you just got Lyle Thompson on the right side, too. A goal and 3 assists. Jordan McIntosh, a transition threat, a goal and 2 assists. Quiet night from Caleb Benedict, just 2 assists. Nothing really from Keen Moon in that game. And, Georgia's kind of, the opposite of, you know how San Diego's been this season. San Diego, I mentioned, kind of leaning so heavily on their right side. Georgia kind of leaning quite heavily on the left side at this point with Jackson Cole, Byrne, got Torrin Eccleston in there as well. Like I mentioned, of course, you got Lyle Thompson on the other side, but Lyle hasn't been, Lyle for the most part of this season, still giving you solid contributions, but outside of a few moments, really hasn't taken over games too often this year, like we've seen Lyle do seemingly night in and night out in years past. But if you can get the Lyle Thompson of old and then maybe some spark out of a Benedict or a Moon, that is a dangerous group there for the Georgia Swarm, no doubt. But really the most impactful and dangerous person on the Swarm team, their netminder, Brett Dobson. We've been talking about how great he has been doing all season, and something that I believe it was Patty Gregoire mentioned on the broadcast. It's time to stop talking about Brett Dobson for goalie of the year. I mentioned he might sweep all the awards earlier. I really think Brett Dobson is making a serious case for league MVP, trying to be the first man to do it since Christian Del Bianco in 2023, and looking to be just the third ever goalie to do it. I'll give everybody a moment here to think. Who would the other goalie have been? All right, we'll pause for a second. All right, any guesses? Anybody? No? All right, I'm going to tell you. Steve Dietrich from your world champion Buffalo Bandits, the only other goaltender to win the league's MVP award back in 2006. The man they call Chugger took home the league's MVP. And just some comparisons for you on their seasons. So we'll go with Dietrich first. Through 16 games back in 06. 9.97 goals against, 80.8 save percentage. Del Bianco's MVP season through 18 games, slightly better, 928 goals against average, 81% save percentage. Brett Dobson right now through 8 games, 691 goals against average, and an 86.8 save percentage, almost a full 6 points clear of Del Bianco in save percentage, and then quite a few ahead in terms of goals against average as well. And those were both MVP seasons, like I mentioned, for Dietrich and Del Bianco. And right now, Brett Dobson is blowing them out of the water. And I think, I don't know how you couldn't give him the MVP right now with what he has done for this Swarm team, and with the records that he might set by this season's end. I don't think his goals against average is going to finish sub-7 and the save percentage north of 85%. But man, oh man, if he puts up anything comparable, or even especially if it's better to what Del Bianco did a few seasons ago, just start engraving the MVP award now with the name of Brett Dobson, because I think he will take it home. As for Halifax, really in this game, the Thunderbirds just... Man, they're on a collapse right now. They have just been struggling, as it really seems like when Warren Hill isn't taking the game over, they're having a very tough time winning these games and getting them to the finish line, now dropping to 3-5, and in the midst of losing 5 out of their last 6 games. It's just all seemingly falling apart right now for the Thunderbirds after the season started off so good, 2-0, 11-2 win over Oshawa, a historic win for the franchise, and then you beat Buffalo on the road. I mean, the Thunderbirds were flying high, but since then they have just kind of crashed and burned, and, they got a lot of things they're going to have to work on. Dawson Theed's not there anymore, so we'll see if, that affects anything in that locker room as this season progresses. I know we talked about how it can affect that left side, and sometimes when you lose a guy, you can open up others, and I think it worked out well for Jason Knox in that game. Had a hat trick. Cody Jamieson, solid 4-assist game. Not the jammer of old, but still solid production. It's just the right side really didn't give you as much as you're used to. 2 goals from Stotts and then just 1-1 from Clark Peterson. He's somebody that might have to be a bit better than that if this Thunderbirds team wants to, take home some more wins. Didn't get a lot from Mike Robinson. He's somebody else I think is going to really have to step up with Thede not there. I think really Robinson and Knox are the two guys that the Thunderbirds are going to rely on heavily on that left side now that Thede is not on the team anymore after that trade. But really the guy that's just not been as advertised this year for Halifax, I gave him some stick earlier in the season, but Brendan Bomberry, I mean, he just looks nothing like what I saw him when he was with Georgia. Just almost a completely different player right now. I understand if he's not taking O shifts all the time, but just looking at his shot numbers and stuff like that, it seems like he's playing a lot more offense, like he was in Georgia. He does have some transition experience, but we're talking about a guy who was a 60-point guy, just a couple seasons ago. Last 2 years were north of 50 points, and this year, I mean, gosh, I don't even know if he's on pace for 20 with his performances this season. I mean, 9 points in 8 games, I guess he would just be around there, but that's just not enough from one of I thought the top free agent signings for any team this offseason was Halifax picking up Brendan Bomberry, but he has really been the biggest disappointment for me this season. There's a couple so far, but I don't know if there's any bigger than Brendan Bomberry right now. He just has not been the same player like we got to see in Georgia, and I really think the T-Birds are going to have to rely on him to step up along with some other guys on that right side if they want to really have any shot of finding themselves in the playoffs this year. It's, I think, going to be probably the most competitive field we've seen since moving to the unified standings format. So I think it's, these guys are going to have to step up for sure. As we get ready for the next game, Vancouver, one of the many blowouts this weekend. Vancouver blew out the Rochester Nighthawks 16-6. And oh boy, was there a lot to talk about in this game. I guess, we'll get the elephant out of the room here first and talk about the Rylan Hartley situation. And, plain and simple, I mean, anybody who thinks that wasn't a dirty hit and that wasn't a penalty doesn't really know what they're watching, in my opinion, because that was as dirty as it gets. It's a textbook charge, ran right at him, no real hesitation. The one thing I will defend Hartley on, to be fair, is the point of contact was not dirty. He did not hit him in the head, didn't catch him up here. It looked like it was, for the most part, in the chest, shoulder area. So I will say that point of contact was not dirty. It was how he went about, creating the contact that was incredibly dirty. Like I said, textbook charge, running right at him, multiple steps, not slowing down and stopping. To me, that was pretty cut and dry there. Blindside hit, and I don't want to hear. I'm just going to say, I don't want to hear any of the, he was looking at him, so it's not blindside. Guys, if you ever play lacrosse, if you ever play football, you ever play any of these high-contact sports, you should know when you're getting a pass like that, and especially if you don't catch it right away in stride like Steph Charbonneau didn't do, for one reason or another, you're looking around, your first thought is, where the hell is that ball? I'm trying to find the ball, because that's your goal. You think you got a breakaway and have a chance to, get a shot off. So you're trying to find that ball. As soon as his head turns, he got hit. You had to go frame by frame to see his head turn, and for 0.2 seconds, he was looking right at Rylan Hartley. That is not enough time to even process where the ball is, which is what he's looking for, let alone the fact that Rylan Hartley is coming out ready to knock his block off, and you can't brace for impact, can't brace for anything, you can't prepare for any of it, and really it's, to me, like I said, it's pretty cut and dry. It's a dirty hit. Just can't have that. Obviously, everybody's kind of talking about the Alex Bouquet situation from years ago on Carson Leung. And that, that's why we don't want plays like this, because of what happened there. It's so unfortunate that a guy as talented as Carson Leung now, you can't play the game anymore at this level because of something like that was so preventable. And with Hartley, to be honest with you, it's only a matter of time with him. It really, really was only a matter of time. He seemingly every game wants to do this, wants to go out of his net, wants to try and make contact, try and get loose balls like that. I really think he wants to do anything other than play goalie. He seems to me like he kind of got stuck there when he was a kid because he was the most athletic player, but does not have any interest in playing goalie. And I think it's going to be tough for Rochester to win a championship with a guy like that. I really do. He's had nothing but issues, it seems like, his whole career staying on the floor. I'm not saying they're all his fault. Concussions are nothing to play with, and injuries, are what they are. You can't always control that stuff. But sometimes your best ability is availability. And at the end of the day, he has not been available for the Rochester Nighthawks. And if he continues to be unavailable for them this season, especially if it's a suspension, I think that franchise has to move on, whether it be in the midway through or in the offseason. I just think Mike Hazen and his squad, Dan Carey, all those guys would be wasting a championship caliber roster with a goalie that right now to me doesn't seem like he takes it seriously. Sometimes that's the impression I get from a guy like Rylan Hartley, is he's just out there. It's all about me. It's my show. It's me trying to wow the fans and give everybody a show. And you're going to remember things you see with Rylan Hartley, that's for sure. But at the end of the day, I don't know if that's the kind of guy that can be in your net at the most important times, playing the most important position and win you a championship. But yeah, onto the game, as I know that was kind of the talk that dominated conversations, for good reason, but onto the game itself. The game itself, a whole heck of a lot less interesting than that play, and especially after it, as, of course, Rylan Hartley got the match penalty, so see ya bye. Hutchcraft, we've talked about before, he's one of the better backups, or at least I've said that, in my opinion, in the National Lacrosse League, but just didn't have it in that on that night. 43 shots, 28 saves, just seemed like he wasn't quite ready to go, and, I understand, but, part of that job is being ready at a moment's notice. He just wasn't that night, and the Nighthawks, like they have in previous seasons, might have to rely on Riley Hutchcraft a bit more than they would like to, if you had a guy like Hartley in there, but might have to rely more on Hutchcraft. They did actually, just to make a note of this, they did add Cam McLeod. I heard, per Adam Levy, they did sign Cam McLeod to the practice squad. He could be elevated very soon. So I think McLeod's a very talented goaltender. I think he'll make a good backup third stringer for the Nighthawks, especially if Hartley's going to be suspended for quite a while. I think having a guy like McLeod would be big for them to have that depth. But, in terms of the game itself, we'll turn our attention here to Vancouver now, because they dominated the game. They deserve a lot of love here. And somebody that absolutely earned the love in this game. Keegan Ball, 2 goals, 11 assists, 13 points. Keegan Ball setting some records with that performance. I got here, Keegan Ball set the franchise record for most assists in a game with 11. And this isn't just Vancouver Warriors franchise. This goes back to, their prior stops out west. As I could go back as far as their Washington Stealth days. Couldn't quite find all the stats from the Albany Attack days, but just guessing about, with how it went, they did have some decent years, I guess, in Albany, or a year, where they were all right, but I'm thinking nobody probably had 11 assists in the game. So, franchise record there for Keegan Ball at the very least with all of the Western franchises. Nobody has had more assists in a game for that Warriors franchise for sure. Then Keegan Ball, 11 for him, career high in that category as well. Was up there for career high in points, but I don't believe he said it. Might have tied it. He's had some big games throughout his career. We all know how great the former Lake Erie Storm man is in Keegan Ball. Truly one of the most electrifying players in the sport. Jesse King with an excellent game as well. 5 goals, 3 assists for Kinger. 4 and 4 for Curtis Dixon. 2 and 3 for Charlon Beatties. 2 and 3 for Marcus Klarich. Just a great team effort there from the Vancouver Warriors. Seemingly everybody contributing in what was just a dominant performance. 50 shots, 44 saves for Christian Del Bianco, and like I said, domination, led by as many as 11, had a 7-0 third quarter. Once Hartley got ejected, Rochester really was out of that game and seemingly scrambling, right from when that happened. They were scrambling, trying to figure things out, and just didn't really work then, and didn't get much better. So we'll move on. It was a 17-10 win for the Toronto Rock over the Ottawa Black Bears. And going into that game, one of the main questions I had was, can the young, high-flying Toronto offense take down the lesser Ottawa defense, or will the more veteran Ottawa offensive group, really take it to Toronto with the backup goalie and Troy Holochuk in the net? And it was the young Toronto offense that really stepped up and excelled. Mark Matthews, the veteran, led the way. 2 goals, 9 assists. He also had a historic performance, tied his career high for assists in a game with 9. Great, playmaking performance, of course, from Mark Matthews. Seemingly does it night in, night out. Challen Rogers stepped up as well, 7 points for him. Then, of course, C.J. Kirst. I mean, it wouldn't be a Toronto win without C.J. Kirst stepping up and performing big, 6 points. And how about Chris Boucher? 5 goals for him. I know I mentioned the young, high-flying Toronto offense, but really when you look at the stat sheet, it was the veterans who really carried the mail for the Rock in this game. Boucher had a big-time performance. 5 goals on 7 shots, too. So efficient and effective for Chris Boucher. Owen Hiltz, once again, another solid performance. 2 goals, 3 assists. Josh Dowick has been doing some good off-ball work. I'm starting to notice a bit more. 2 goals, 2 assists as well. If he can get back to that, goal-scoring prowess like we saw last season, that would really behoove this Rock team. Dan Craig, 4 assists. Quiet season overall for Craig, but starting to get going a bit more these last few weeks, I think. 4 assists, a good way to start for him. Brad Cree, another solid defensive game, 8 loose balls for him, caused turnover to go along with it. Phil Mazuka as well, really starting to come into his own this year, I think, for the Rock. 5 loosies, a pair of caused turnovers, and somebody that is, speaking of guys starting to come into their own, Elijah Gash as well, 2 loose balls, 4 caused turnovers, a big game for Gash. He right there with his 4 caused turnovers had more on his own than Ottawa had as a team, as the Black Bears, not doing great in that category, only 3 caused turnovers. So hard to win a game when you're not making the other team turn the ball over, as Toronto really kind of coasted to a victory there over the Black Bears, and they got their first win in the Battle of Ontario. Could be the first of many. I know they're hoping so, against their provincial rival. Now, moving on to a game that, maybe somebody wasn't so sure I wanted to talk about. Some folks might have thought I didn't want to talk about this game, but believe me, I want to talk about this game. The Buffalo Bandits go out to Ball Arena and get absolutely shellacked by the Colorado Mammoth, 20-9, as Andrew Q puts up a historic performance as he tied his personal record for goals in a game with 7, but he did set a new career high in points with 11 in that game. 7 goals, 4 assists for Andrew Q. Jack Hanna continues to be a revelation for this Colorado offense. 2 goals, 7 assists. Braden Saris had a nice night. 3 goals, 4 assists. I think he's going to be a great contributor for this Mammoth team in the years to come. McIntosh popped off 4 goals for him, and really, who didn't contribute in that game? Everybody, it seems, got 1, as it's kind of hard not to when the team puts up 20 as a whole. Just great game from Colorado. They looked like they were ready to go right from the jump. Buffalo looked like they never got off the plane, and no Malcolm, no problem. Their Colorado offense just ran circles around the Bandits right from the start. It doesn't help that the first goal was a bit of a weak one from Matt Vince. You live with that with Vince. By and large, he gives you some great performances. This game it wasn't it from him. But yeah, they, like I said, they never got off the plane. Just a horrible, embarrassing performance that they should be ashamed of. The Bandits should never be subject to that. You should never be, embarrassing our team, our organization, our city like that. And that's exactly what it is. And I don't care if they're upset about it or about me saying it. Play better. Your job is to play better. There's expectations here. There's expectations with this team. There's expectations in this city, and we expect better out of you. And when they're not up to par, it's up to us as the fans to let them know. And the Bandits were not even close to up to par. They haven't really been up to par all season. Only 4 caused turnovers for them as a team. So if we go back to the Toronto game, Elijah Gash had as many as Buffalo had as a team in their game as well. You got to cause more turnovers than what you're doing there. Buffalo was down 6-0 before they even got their first goal of the game, down 12-4 at halftime. Colorado didn't even need to play a second half. Buffalo only got to 9, and Colorado was at 12 at halftime. Just a joke of a performance. Some soul-searching really is needed for the Bandits at this point. You got Philly coming up this weekend. That's got to be a win. That's as much of a must-win game, as I've really seen for the Bandits in the last few years. And offensively, got to figure it out. Clay Scanlon, where is he? Put up the missing poster signs. Ryan Benesh, he should have retired in the offseason, man. Old and slow, can't catch the ball anymore. So your left side is basically just Byrne. And Byrne is having an unlucky season. He has got some good chances. It's just not going his way. I guess you throw McKay in there as well, but I feel like I saw him playing more of that transition role, so I want to keep him as a transition player, not just a forward. But your right side, obviously Dane's Dane. He's doing great. Dahoka had a good game. I don't remember the last time I've seen him have 5 points in a game. Great game from him. Bucky's been, very inconsistent this year, struggling to create chances, and Nielsen doesn't do much. I don't even recall if he played in that game. Don't believe he did. If he did, didn't even notice him. So that tells you everything you need to know right there. Far too many possessions where they go down 2 or 3 passes, and then just a nothing shot right at the goaltender. This has been a theme, in all the losses in particular, but even in the wins, there have been a number of possessions where our team just makes 2 or 3 passes or less, and then just takes a stupid shot. Nobody fights for a loose ball, fights for a rebound, just run back to the bench. It just seems like we're relying too much on high-end talent to bail us out, which it has in the past, but it doesn't always work, and we got to learn how to win without that. We got to find ways to win, and that's something this team is just not doing right now, and they're going to have to get better at it if they want any chance of not only winning a championship, but just make the playoffs. This team right now isn't going to make the postseason. if they continue the way they are doing things. Just not anywhere close to good enough right now. Next game, the Las Vegas Desert Dogs defeating the Oshawa Firewolves 16-13. And this, our final game that we're recapping from this past week before we get into the previews. And it's a big win for the Desert Dogs. Get to, defend their den. Win by 3 goals in front of a sold-out den, might I add as well. Great to see the Desert Dogs, selling out the arena in Henderson. Maybe this could lead to a path back to the Strip if they can get some consistent crowds in Henderson. So, build it up. It might not even be next year, but just over time, build up those crowds and have a shot to get back on the Strip in Las Vegas. I think that would be awesome for that franchise. So great to see they're doing well in Henderson. And those people, I mean, if you went to that game and left thinking, man, I don't want to go back, then I'm sorry, this sport is just not for you. That was a great game that they were treated to, a 3-goal win, especially for the Desert Dogs. So I know their fans got to go home happy, which is just awesome. As a fan, that's what you want. You always want to go home happy. Obviously, the visiting team wants to spoil it, but the Vegas fans got to go home with smiles on their faces, and that's great. Mitch Jones gave them lots of reasons to smile. 4 goals, 5 assists, 9-point night for Mitch Jones. He's a superstar for a reason, and they got a burgeoning superstar right next to him in Jonathan Donville. 2 goals, 6 assists, 8 points for him. I've said before, he is going to be a problem. He is their best righty forward, and I think they have their franchise faces right there in Jones and Donville. Then when you can get the contributions from Chris Cloutier, 3 goals, 4 assists, and even a Kyle Killen, they needed his performance, 3 goals, 2 assists. Jackson Webster, a good young player, a goal and 3 assists, and then 2 goals and an assist from Adam Poitras. That helps to make up for Chase Fraser not being out there. Suffered an injury earlier on. That really hurts, especially if it's going to be long-term. Not having Fraser in the lineup is huge. He makes a big impact on the game, and he makes a big impact on the room. He's just, got that magnetic personality that, energizes everybody. Everybody says, in these votes that the Lax Mag has done that, he may not be a guy that players, for whatever reason, they don't want him to join their team. I think Mitch Jones was as well voted top 5 in players you wouldn't want on your team. I can't think of 3 reasons for either of those guys why I wouldn't want them on the team. And if I can't think of 3 reasons, then I want them on my team. So they all provide great value, great reasons to be on the team. I don't really understand that. I think Chase, provides that spark in the locker room. I do think as well, he wants his highlight reel. I get it. But at the same time, I think he also wants some championships because he's got 3 of them for a reason. That doesn't just happen. So, that's going to be a huge loss for Vegas if he's not there, especially if it's long-term. Landon Kells in that game, 47 shots, 34 saves. If he can just be good enough and give you a shot, then that's all you can really ask for out of Kells, I guess, this season. Real close game all throughout. Vegas never led by more than 3, and that was right at the end of the game. Never had a run longer than 3 as well. Once again, right at the end of the contest. So they saved it for when they needed it most, and it helped them come away with the victory. And just point this out as well, Jonathan Donville got the game winner. Like I said, that man is going to be a problem in the years to come. For Oshawa, Dawson Theed burst onto the scene with his biggest game as a Firewolf, 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points. Alex Simmons with a big 7-point game. We all know how great Alex Simmons is. Ty Kurtz, 2 and 4, another excellent player on this Firewolves team. But somebody that impressed me, especially in the second half of that game, was Dyson Williams. 3 second-half goals, 4 points. I called him out a little bit, and he stepped up in this game. Unfortunately for his team, it wasn't enough. You'd think with the production they got that more often than not it would be enough, but they were outscored 11-7 in the second half, and it just kind of did them in. You can tell the chemistry is building with that team, especially on that offensive unit, but really at this moment, it's just not quite where it needs to be. And one thing that I really didn't like seeing, I have in my notes here for Oshawa, is late in the game, Nick Tchaikovsky was on a break and one-on-one with the goalie, got stopped, and was able to get his own rebound in the corner, and not a single teammate followed him up. And, this was at a point in the game where you're down 2 with under 3 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. And, I mean, my goodness, guys, somebody's got to go up there and support him and give him a shot to get the second chance. You're trying to get some goals. You're down by 2, and your teammate just had a breakaway and ended up turning the ball over because nobody was there to support him and help him out. I think Oshawa's got to be better, got to make those little plays more often if they want to come away with more victories. The first game I will preview for this weekend's upcoming games will be the Oshawa Firewolves and the Toronto Rock. The Firewolves 2-7, the Rock 4-3. We'll start with Oshawa in the midst of a 3-game losing streak. Got to try and close out this 4-game road trip that they're on with a win. It's been a very tough stretch of games for the Firewolves. If you want to save your season, you gotta try and get a win here. They've been giving up 15-plus goals in 4 out of their last 5 games, being outscored 71-64 over that 5-game stretch. So that's not a huge disparity, all things considered. So you'd think by that most of the time they're in these games, but it's just not translating to wins. And it's just been such an odd season for the Firewolves, after not scoring more than 8 goals in the first 4 games of the year. They've scored 10-plus in each of the last 5, and, 11-plus in, 4 out of the last 5, but the defense has kind of capitulated on the other side. First 4 games of the season, didn't give up more than 11 goals, only did that once. Since then, they gave up 9. That was their low in the last 5 games, but they gave up 16 against Ottawa, 15 against Sask, 15 against Colorado, 16 again against Las Vegas. Defense just hasn't been there for the Firewolves, and they have really also been significantly worse on the road, only averaging a little over 8 goals per game on the road and 13 goals against on the road versus exactly 11 goals per game at home, and which is slightly better than 10 goals against per game at home. So doing a little bit better at home compared to on the road. They do have to go to Toronto, not too far of a game, as Toronto and Ottawa, we call that the Battle of Ontario. I think this might just be the battle for Toronto, as Oshawa, for those that don't know, Oshawa is actually closer to downtown Toronto than the Toronto Rock are because they play in Hamilton. So I guess we'll call this the battle of the GTA, battle for Toronto. We'll come up with something there. The Rock, when this Firewolves team was in Albany, they were 5-1 all time against that franchise. However, Albany's last win was their last ever game as the Albany Firewolves against Toronto. So if they can beat the Rock again, that would give them 2 in a row, dating back to their Albany days. Does that happen? I don't know. With Toronto having won 3 out of the last 4, picking up their biggest win of the season, and with how well some of their guys are playing, I think we got to go with the Rock. Give me Toronto in that game. Next up, it's like I mentioned earlier, a must-win game for the back-to-back-to-back world champion Buffalo Bandits, who sit at 3-4, taking on the 1-6 Philadelphia Wings. And like I mentioned, this is as much of a must-win game as there really has been, during this dynastic run for Buffalo. the offense has to show something. They have been stymied in each of their losses this season, and for the last 3 games in a row, they've been held to just 9 goals. Most of the time in this league, that's not going to be enough. It wasn't even close against Colorado. Offense has got to show something. I really felt like the defense gave you a chance for most of this season, but they've been giving up 10-plus in each of the last 4 games. They're going to have to step up and be better as well. I really think if this game's a struggle for Buffalo, I think their shot of getting 4 straight is pretty much out the window, because Philly, to me, has looked so far off the pace this year. This, similar to the Calgary game the Bandits played earlier in the year, this has to be, a decisive win where you are in control pretty much from start to finish. Philly's going to start well. They do start games incredibly well, but you gotta, play better, and you gotta play your best, and they gotta show something for me in this game. I'm gonna go with Buffalo, but Philly's got a shot to have an upset here. They are in the midst of a 6-game losing streak, tied for their second longest losing streak in the quote new Wings history. The only one that eclipses it was an 8-game losing streak during last season, but they've been held to just 7 in each of the last 3 games, and they've been giving up quite a few, giving up 13 goals or more in 4 out of the last 6 games. Often they're getting teams are getting to around 15 or 16 on the Wings. And like I said earlier, they've started games well. By and large, for a team that's 1-6, they're only outscored 37-34 in first halves. So they're very competitive in the first half of the game. However, in the second half, they're getting outscored 49-31. So just not competitive in the second half. If Philly can play a full 60 minutes, they'll start to win some games. It'll start to come together for them. If not, similar to Calgary, it's not going to go well. I'm going to go with Buffalo, but Philly, they have a shot. There's always a chance in the National Lacrosse League, but I really think it's going to be, tough sledding for the Wings for sure. Next one, we have the Calgary Roughnecks, also at 1-6, taking on the 4-5 Ottawa Black Bears. This is once again another big game for both teams here. Like Philly, Calgary's trying to save their season. Like Philly and Oshawa, really, all 3 of those teams trying to save and salvage their season this year. Because, in my opinion, if you go to 1-7, you might as well pack it up. Having to go, what would that be, like 9-3 or something like that down the final stretch? No, 9-1, something like that down the final stretch. That would get you to 10-8. Yeah, that's better math. Yeah, 9-1 down the stretch. I mean, if you end up at 1-7, good luck. I guess it's possible, but I really wouldn't want to count on it. And even then, that just gets you to 10 wins. Who says that's even guaranteed to be enough to make the playoffs this year? I think it might, but I can't say I know for sure either. Yeah, you got to win if you want to salvage your season at this point if you're Calgary. Second 3-game losing streak of the season. They haven't been able to keep a team under 11 goals all year. That's been a consistent struggle for them. Aiden Walsh and that defensive group's got to, step up and answer the bell at some point. I know it's not all on the goalie, but, I mean, especially when your team's, 13th in the league in caused turnovers with 43, 12th in loose balls with 447. I know the number of games is a little wonky, but still, when you're near the bottom of the league in 2 major statistical categories like that, that kind of is an indication of how your defense is doing. So they're not giving Walsh a whole lot of support. I think that whole side of the ball really has to improve and come together for Calgary to have any shot. And it's a defense that's struggling going up against a high-flying Black Bears offense that, has slowed down the last couple games. They've, had a couple, rougher contests by their standard, dropping down from, getting 16 goals a game against Philly and Oshawa. They've been held to a max of just 11 in the last 4 games. Record was 1-3 during that stretch. But 10 was enough against Buffalo. Will it be enough against Calgary? Maybe. but I think you really want to see this offense pop in this game. But as well, their defense has got to be better too. They've had some struggles recently. I really liked what I saw out of guys like Callum Jones, Reed Kurtz, Jake Stevens, among others, earlier in the year. Some of these guys have slowed down a little bit. Got to ramp it up over these next few games, and it starts here with Calgary. It's a big one, but I'm going to go with Ottawa getting the win at home. They need it to get up to 5-5, and I think it's a big one for their playoff chances. Give me the Black Bears in this one. Our next contest sees the 4-3 Las Vegas Desert Dogs take on the 5-3 Georgia Swarm. And for Las Vegas, entering this game, having won their last 2 games in a row, their offense has been excellent really all season long. I believe they're leading the league in goals per game, if I'm not mistaken. Have only been held under 10 goals once this whole year, and that came all the way back in game number 1 against Vancouver, a 15-9 loss there. But since then, double digits every game, and they've been north of 10 in 4 of their contests, putting up 17 on Toronto, 13 in a loss against Buffalo, 15 in a loss against Sask, and then a big 16-13 win over Oshawa. If Fraser's out, that could be a big problem for this Vegas team. But you know what? As long as the rest of the team picks him up and keeps on contributing. I really like what I've been seeing out of Jones, Donville, Cloutier. I think's having a big year. If you can have guys like Poitras, Webster, Killen pick up the slack like they did in the Oshawa game, I think this Vegas team will do all right. I once again bring it back to the defense and their goaltending. I think it's going to have to improve if they want to have more success. Teams have gotten 11 or more in 4 out of the last 5 against the Vegas Desert Dogs. Like I said, got to be better. Georgia, they're a team. They know how to win with defense. 3-game win streak. They're averaging just enough, little over 10 goals per game, but their defense has been incredible, keeping teams to an average of less than 8 goals per game. I gave you some of Brett Dobson's numbers earlier in the season compared to the other 2 goaltender MVP award winners, and I think he's really putting himself in some great company and giving himself a shot to take home a big piece of hardware. I'm going to go with Georgia. I like how Georgia's been playing lately. I like that their young, high-flying group. They did add Mike Triolo to that right side, which was a bit of a surprise. Did see some action in their last game. To me, seems more like a depth pickup, but hey, if they think Triolo can give them something and you can get him, for free as a free agent, why not go out and grab him? Didn't have to trade any draft picks or assets for him. Bandits had to give up a third, I believe it was, to get him from Sask. They get him for nothing after he gets cut. Sounds like a good piece of business there for Ed Como and the Swarm. And, they got the depth that contributes all across the lineup. I really like Georgia. Give me the Swarm in this matchup. Next up, we will have a really, really big one, the rematch, as we will see the Rochester Nighthawks taking on the Vancouver Warriors. And man, oh man, I know what game I'm going to be watching Saturday at 10 o'clock. I think this is going to be a fun one. I thought last week it was the game of the week and didn't really turn out to be the most entertaining lacrosse game. Obviously, there were some entertaining moments, but the game itself was non-competitive. Vancouver dominated, and I don't think they're going to dominate again. I don't know if Hartley will be in there. Nothing much has really been said to this point about a possible suspension. I heard with the match penalty, you should get 1, but with the appeal process, he might be able to play this week and then have to sit out in the games to come. But if Hartley's in there, Rochester's got a shot. But I think Vancouver right now just has so much momentum, winning 5 out of their last 6 games. They have been playing some great ball, put up a season-high 16 in the win over Rochester. I mentioned guys like Keegan Ball set some records. 4-1 all time as well for Vancouver against the new Nighthawks. Yeah, give me Vancouver. Kept teams to under 10 goals 4 times this season. Man, oh man, if they got the stellar offense that they have working, combining with a stout defense, that's going to be very dangerous and hard to beat. I'm going to go with the Warriors in this game. It was the first time in quite a long time as well. I want to get this in here that the Warriors won by as many goals as they did. 10-goal victory, of course, over Rochester, 16-6. The last 10-goal win for the Warriors franchise history actually comes back when they were known as the Vancouver Stealth on Valentine's Day of 2014, a 19-9 win on the road against Colorado, stunning everyone as the Stealth took home a big Valentine's Day win. Probably one of their best Valentine's Day memories, I'm sure. But it's been quite some time since we last saw a Vancouver lacrosse team with a dominant win like that. I think they're going to keep the momentum rolling. Give me the Warriors in this one. Rochester, like I've mentioned earlier in the show, just they've hit a wall a bit with that game, only putting up 6. You're not going to win hardly any games in this league, only scoring 6. Defense started to struggle the last few games. They've given up 11 or more in each of the last 2, and you can also go back a little further. They've given up 11 or more in 5 out of the last 6 as well, so got to be better there. If Hartley's not in the net, you can easily chalk it up for Vancouver, in my opinion. If he is, he gives you a shot, but I just don't know in this one. It might not be enough. I think the Warriors are the right call here. And then the final game of the busy weekend sees the Saskatchewan Rush at 7-1 take on the 4-3 San Diego Seals. We'll start with San Diego. They're on a 3-game win streak, so they're starting to turn the season around, right the ship. Those 2 wins against Philly, I think, are going to be huge for them. I don't know if they're going to get it done against Sask. Sask is just such a tough team to beat this year. But, for the Seals, I think they got just as good of a shot as anybody. It's them putting up 13 against Philly. Most they've scored since their first game of the season against Ottawa when they had 16. So I think that offense starting to gel a bit more, starting to click. They are going to have a shot, but ultimately I got to go with the Rush. The Rush have just not given me a reason to pick against them all year. They have just been so solid, so consistent. 6-game win streak for them. They've scored 10-plus in 6 out of their 8 games this season, and they have been winning by large margins, winning the last 4 games by a margin of 4 goals against Halifax, 6 against Vegas, 5 against Oshawa, then 6 on the road against Calgary. A lot of games have been blowouts this year. Sometimes that can hurt you later in the season if you're not playing a ton of close competitive games, but that shows you right now I think they are just a level above the rest of the pack, really. Got that taste of the championship success last year. Now they want the whole thing. I mentioned it earlier. They want to raise the cup. Can't do that this weekend, but I think they're going to add an 8th win to their record. Give me the Rush in that game. And important to note as well, if Saskatchewan does win that game, it would knock San Diego to a franchise low of 1-4 at home. The Seals have never started a season 1-4 at Pechanga Arena. The worst they ever were at home was 5-4. I believe that was the 2022 season. They were 5-4 at home. 2022 season. They were 10-8 overall, 5-4 at home, 5-4 on the road. That was their worst ever mark for a season at Pechanga Arena. If Saskatchewan goes in and gets the win in this game, that, like I said, will drop them to 1-4 already. So it could be, an all-time rough year for the Seals at home, but you got a chance to change things in this game against Saskatchewan. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to happen. We're going with the Rush all the way. And that will do it here for this week's edition of Inside the World of Box Lacrosse. It was a busy one, as we had a ton to talk about, recapping and previewing, but I am so glad you were able to tune in, and thank you so very much for watching and for the support. Believe me, it does not go unnoticed, but I will wrap things up here and say one more time, thank you so very much for watching Inside the World of Box Lacrosse. I have been Trevor Butz, saying so long.